Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a satisfying Saturday so far. Today we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we've got lots of interesting things to share with you. We're going to be talking about the America Competes Act that essentially has passed the House without the disastrous provisions on crypto. We're going to be talking about the SEC as they continue to delay a spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, this could be because they're waiting for a regulatory framework that Biden has addressed as a matter of national security for them to kind of give a green light to Grayscale or to the other companies, institutions that want to facilitate a spot Bitcoin ETF. So it's a good thing in the sense that they haven't just rejected it, but a not so great thing that they keep pushing it back. But I would say overall, the fact that they keep delaying it rather than refusing it is a good thing. So we'll be diving into a number of articles surrounding that. We know the cryptocurrency market is looking a little bit more jolly today. We'll be getting into that. This could, and most probably does, have something to do with the non-farm payroll. It also has, we've been saying on the last couple of, certainly after this pullback, the market sentiment has been very negative and very fearful. And this is the breeding ground for pumps like what we saw yesterday, because you have people getting liquidated. So, for example, there was $103 million worth of Bitcoin shorts liquidated in the last 24 hours. And that's how you end up with pumps like this. And this pump was the biggest one day gain for Bitcoin USD since the 8th of February 2021. So since last year, essentially, this was the biggest percentage gain that Bitcoin had undergone. And that has a lot to do with the sentiment and how that is really the breeding ground. When everyone's bearish, typically the price will go the other way. I mean, you could literally tell people that decide to use to trade with leverage, they're 100% guaranteed to lose their money, and they would still put the trade on. It's just nonsensical. So we'll be getting into the markets across the board, going over a number of on-chain analytics, looking at one from Will Clement, and of course the Rational Root on Twitter, and then diving into some of these articles. Also, you've got Ted Cruz, which is a senator who's actually buying Bitcoin, and we see a number of other political influential figures, certainly in America, not just America, across the world, taking their salaries in Bitcoin, moving towards adopting Bitcoin, and so on and so forth. And it's all part of the journey that we're on to obtaining adoption. And this is just another pawn within the greater chess game that we're playing. You also have the likes of Belarus, moves to allow investment funds to acquire crypto assets. So what you're looking at when you're looking at price is only one side of the story. There's a whole backlog that or a whole narrative often attached with what's taking place within the price. And we know, of course, there's technicals at play. So markets are a little bit more cheery today, which is a nice thing to see. Bitcoin saw a beautiful little pump. Of course, your altcoins just followed, often in a higher beta manner. So when Bitcoin goes one way, your altcoins will often do it in more of a volatile manner. This is really just due to the liquidity and then being able to be pushed up and down more efficiently with less capital needed. So the likes of Ethereum followed, Cardano of course followed, but remember, we still need to put in structure. We're not technically, if this is it for Bitcoin and it goes on to roll, you're still, even though you've potentially put in a higher high here, putting in a higher low here, you're potentially still putting in a lower low, which still means you are in a downtrend. You need to start putting in higher highs and higher lows and start breaking some of this resistance and climbing out. And it's very common that on the way in a reversal, you'll do this. You'll stop short of an area of significant resistance. And this is what you can find, not just here, what was previously support. What you're looking at here is support and resistance. So you can see this has been resistance previously over here and over here. So this is a significant level that if you can get above, we could see the green light. And it's very typical, for example, was support over here, resistance over here, resistance over here, resistance over here. So this is actually a pretty key level for Bitcoin where we're at right now that we need to get above. And it's also acted as support. So it's essentially flipped to resistance from support on the way down. As you broke it, you see weak rally here and you broke into it. So we need to kind of keep going and we need to start setting up structure. It's very common that you can see when you approach a previous level of resistance or support, you'll actually capitulate at it for a little bit or consolidate at it for a little bit before you see that continuation. Very, very common that you do this. So I'm ultimately extremely bullish. You guys know my macro view on crypto. We're very early within cryptocurrencies getting adopted, and there's a lot of value that gets swept up within that adoption. Let's move on to some on-chain analytics before we cover these two articles, and I give you my opinions on them. This again, biggest gain since February the 8th. Lots of shorts got liquidated yesterday. This is interesting. This is from Will Clement, who you should all be following on Twitter if you're into your on-chain and off-chain analytics. Bitcoin whale activity over the last 2 years, March 2020 to March 2021, March 2021 to July 2021 distribution, July 2021 to September 2021 is accumulation, September 2021 to February 2022 is distribution. And now he's essentially saying, look, are we going to see that accumulation again? So we know that typically institutions will accumulate and distribute and accumulate and distribute. And it's where the whole kind of Wyckoff schematics come from, because Wyckoff essentially decided to come out with a method to help the little guy, the retail guy like me and you, sort of decipher when institutions were looking to exit the market and using retailers exit liquidity and looking to enter it and using buying it cheaper. So when they enter and exit, basically. And he's essentially suggesting that given the whale's holdings and how we're seeing sort of trend reversal within this, so accumulation, distribution, accumulation, distribution, and now he's essentially saying, look, are we looking at some accumulation? And this is supported by whale holdings, entities with 1K plus worth of Bitcoin, filtered from known entities. The next part of the Twitter thread is the last time we saw a spike like this was back here. Whales have been buying Bitcoin over the last 2 weeks after filtering out exchanges. In grayscale, this shows the raw holdings of all entities with over 1,000 BTC. So we're in a similar situation that we are today, ladies and gentlemen. And this was from August 2021. So if we take a look at where Bitcoin was in August 2021, you're over here. And this was on the way to the run-up. So lots of suggestions that Bitcoin's going to continue to go higher. Doesn't mean that we really need to start breaking some of these areas of resistance across the board and going on to actually confirming an uptrend, not only breaking them, coming back, holding them as support and seeing that continuation for the bull run to really be in full swing. And I think once you get that, there's going to be a lot of confidence reasserted within the cryptocurrency markets. But right now, there's a lot of indecision given a lot of the things that we spoke about, why we look at the external financial world around us and not just the crypto space in regards to interest rates and so on and so forth, which is why non-farm payroll is significant, because can they really up interest rates on a weak economy? You guys know my stance on it. I think that governments ultimately are walking a tightrope, and they're going to choose inflation over deflation. Why? Because they owe so much debt in the currency that they're trying to inflate away. And two, they can't really implement any kind of deflationary measures without entirely collapsing the United States economy. The system is too leveraged at this point, ladies and gentlemen. There is a huge crash coming at some point. When that will be, it should have been March 2020, but they stimulated the economy, and we're seeing the kind of repercussions, the aftershocks within huge inflationary event, inflation, threats of deflation, seeing indecision, but ultimately, inflation is not going anywhere, and there's nothing they can do to combat it at this point. It's actually a part of how the system works. This is from the Rational Root, talking about scarcity. A liquid supply is growing nearly twice as fast as new supply. This is why we made a 69 all-time high in a bear market conditions. So it's not saying we're in a bear market. I've said ultimately, Bitcoin doesn't. I don't think we have bear markets like we used to, in the sense that I don't think Bitcoin puts in multi-year bear markets. I think we're mature as a market and we move in a different way. And we're going to become less and less tethered to the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, which essentially centered around the halvings and the supply getting cut in half and people having to adjust in order to stay profitable. And this is something we've brought up time and time again. We've also brought a Bitcoin archive, talks about it a lot. This is, scarcity is increasing. And he's saying why we actually, and it's amazing that Bitcoin made this high over here, given the conditions surrounding it. And it's a real testimony to its strength and appeal more than anything. Coming up, the 24 halving matched with an ever-growing hodl army. I think no one is ready for what's coming. So over time, for me, it's inevitable that Bitcoin is going to continue because it's never been so relevant. It's never seen so much adoption, and it has still got a lot of its coming. In fact, the majority is still to come. So this is an interesting one. But we show you so much on. Somebody asked me, well, how do I know that this is the bottom for Bitcoin? Nobody can perfectly time the bottoms and the tops. What we do know is there's a lot of on-chain analytics around about this period over here that we've been highlighting over the past couple of months, and we'll certainly, given where we are currently, over the past couple of days and week really, suggesting that Bitcoin historically has recovered from these levels on a number of different indicators. Now, indicators only work until they don't, and there's events that throw indicators out the window. Black swan events, global financial events, and so on and so forth. But anyway, I'm rambling on now, guys. Let's get through the rest of this video, as it's all important. The Americans Compete Act passes without disastrous provisions on crypto. A provision originally included in the bill had critics saying the Treasury would not have had limits on surveilling crypto firms suspected of illicit transactions, nor open the matter to include public feedback. So that provision actually didn't go through. Now it's got to go to the Senate. I think it's got to go to the Senate. I'm not majorly sure how the American political system works. I'm not even sure how the UK one works. I know roughly how they say it works, but how it actually works is a whole different story. So we'll see. This is a bit of a win for us, but ultimately the full story isn't over yet, and we know that we are going to get regulated as an industry at some point. This has the potential to have, and it's one reason you see all these big YouTubers coming out and saying they sold. Literally down here, by the way, guys, which take that for what you will. It's one of the reasons they're doing that is because there's so much uncertainty and risk involved with crypto, because we don't know what sort of regulatory clarity are we going to get? What sort of regulatory framework are we going to get? And certainly when somebody from the White House supposedly used the words "a matter of national security," that throws a whole kind of dark cloud over everything. And this is the SEC again delays decision on Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF. Lots of people look at this very negatively. The SEC requests comments on concerns about Grayscale spot ETF proposal. The agency issued included possible shares, multiple, and liquidity of Bitcoin market. So they want to know that it's facilitatable. The SEC is supposed to be an organization that's there for the benefits of people like me and you, retail traders. They've often come out and been on the other side of that. Gary Gensler, I'd argue, is probably one of the best individuals for the job of SEC chairman. If I was going to pick somebody, I'd probably pick him, even though he works for the fiat system. He's got ties with banking and so on and so forth. He did teach blockchain at MIT, so he obviously knows what he's talking about in regards to this technology. He may have different views on it than many of us, given his kind of biases towards the banking realm. But this is a good and a bad thing, because they're not saying, no, we're not going to allow it. They're just saying, okay, we're going to take a little bit more time to figure out whether we want to allow it or not. So I'd argue that delaying it is better than discouraging it or not allowing, giving a straight up no. So there's good and bad here throughout all of what we're getting. And of course, Ted Cruz bought Bitcoin. No surprises there. And we have the likes of Belarus continuing, another country to fall and allow cryptocurrency facilitation. So we're all moving in the right direction, guys. Slow and steady wins the race. Crypto is very early on its adoption curve, certainly Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. I think we have a very bright future. And I think there's a real opportunity at hand here that you'll probably never get again within your lifetime. There's the very definition of value being fought for here, which is huge. And I think people largely underestimate that. So that's really all I have for you guys. Happy Saturday, everybody. I hope you've had a fantastic weekend so far. If you've enjoyed the content, like us, always appreciate it. So as a comment. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents.